The morning sky above Seoul shimmered with an impossible light as the alien ships descended through Earth's atmosphere. Commander Haeon Woo Park pressed his face against the cold glass of the International Space Station. Watching the crystalline vessels arrange themselves in perfect geometric patterns above the blue marble of his home planet. "Count them," he whispered into his headset, his breath fogging the observation window. "How many ships do you see?" Dr. Sujin Kim floated beside him, her tablet displaying streams of data from Earth's deep space sensors. 47 primary vessels, sir. Each one is roughly the size of a city block. Her voice carried a mixture of wonder and terror. "They're not just ships, Commander. They're works of art. Look how they catch the sunlight and scatter it like diamonds." Captain Jinho Lee drifted over to join them, his military uniform crisp despite the zero-gravity environment. "Beautiful or not, Doctor, those diamonds are pointing weapons at every major city on Earth." He tapped his communication device, listening to the frantic chatter from ground control. Seoul, Tokyo, New York, London, Moscow, they're positioned over all of them. The first alien transmission had arrived 3 days earlier, crackling through every radio frequency on Earth simultaneously. The message was simple but clear. "We are the Zelkari Confederation. We have come to bring order to your primitive world. Prepare for assessment." Dr. Sujin Kim had worked without sleep for 72 hours, using every linguistic algorithm and translation matrix humanity possessed to decode the alien language. The breakthrough came when she realized the Zelkari communicated through harmonic frequencies, layering meaning like musical notes. "They think in symphonies," she'd explained to the emergency council. "Each word carries emotional weight, cultural context, and precise meaning. It's the most sophisticated language structure we've ever encountered." The first formal contact came on the 4th day. The largest Zelkari ship, a massive crystalline cathedral that seemed to bend light around its edges, opened a communication channel directly to the United Nations headquarters in New York. The alien leader appeared on screens around the world. It was tall and elegant, with skin that seemed to be made of living crystal. Its eyes were deep blue, like ocean depths, and when it spoke, its voice carried the authority of absolute power. "I am High Commander Veltar of the Zelkari Confederation," the being announced, its words flowing like water over stones. "We have traveled across the galaxy, bringing civilization to primitive worlds. We have assessed your species and found you lacking in all measures of advancement." The human response was immediate and coordinated. President Sarah Chen of the United States, Premier Li Wei of China, and Prime Minister James Morrison of the United Kingdom appeared together on the global transmission. Behind them stood representatives from every nation on Earth, united for the first time in human history. "We welcome you to our solar system," President Chen said, her voice steady, despite the magnitude of the moment. "We offer you our friendship, our knowledge, and our desire for peaceful coexistence." The Zelkari leader's response was swift and dismissive. "Your music is primitive noise. Your art is childish scribbling. Your technology is barely above Stone Age tools." The alien's crystalline features seemed to shine with contempt. "We offer you the choice that we have offered to 47 other worlds. Submit to Zelkari rule, become a tributary species, and we will allow you to serve the greater galactic order. Refuse, and you will be eliminated." In the Seoul Command Center, General Myung Choi watched the transmission with growing anger. She had spent 30 years in the military, rising through the ranks during humanity's various conflicts. She had seen war, death, and destruction. But she had never seen anything like this casual dismissal of an entire species. "They're not even taking us seriously," she said to her staff officers. "They think we're animals to be domesticated or put down." Colonel Jae-won Yoon, her second-in-command, studied the tactical displays showing the alien fleet positions. "Their formation is interesting, General. It's perfect symmetry, mathematical precision. They're treating this like a parade, not a military operation. Might be their first mistake," General Choi replied. "They're so confident in their superiority that they've forgotten the first rule of warfare. Never underestimate your enemy." The human response took exactly 1 hour to coordinate across all world governments. nation to the largest superpower gave the same answer. "We decline your offer," President Chen announced to the waiting galaxy. "Earth will not surrender. We will not kneel. We will not become anyone's servants." The silence that followed lasted for 30 seconds. Then High Commander Veltar spoke again, and this time there was surprise in his crystalline voice.
"Oh, no species has ever refused our offer twice,"
he said. "Are you certain you understand the consequences of your choice?" "We understand perfectly," General Choi replied, stepping forward to speak for all of humanity. "We choose to fight." The alien ships began to glow with internal fire, their crystalline hulls charging with deadly energy. The war for Earth was about to begin. The first Zelkari energy beams struck Sol at dawn, turning the morning sky into a canvas of blue fire. The alien weapons carved through the city's tallest buildings like a hot knife through butter, sending towers of glass and steel crashing into the streets below. High Commander Veltar watched from his flagship, expecting to see panic and surrender within hours. Instead, he saw something that confused him completely. Lieutenant Colonel Jae-won Yoon crouched in the ruins of a shopping mall, speaking into his radio as dust and debris rained down around him. "Phoenix Squadron, this is ground control. We're using energy weapons with a 3-second charge cycle. You have a window between each shot." "Copy that. Ground control," came the reply from Captain Du Haeon Kong, piloting an old F-16 fighter jet high above the burning city. "These crystals are pretty, but they shoot like they're performing a dance." The Zelkari had expected Earth's Air Force to fall within minutes. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their technology centuries ahead of human engineering. What they had not expected was the way human pilots flew their aircraft, Captain. Du Haeon Kong rolled his fighter jet through a series of maneuvers that would have been impossible for a Zelkari pilot to predict. Instead of flying in formation, he dove between buildings, using the city's skyline as cover. When the alien ships fired their energy beams, he was no longer where their computers calculated he should be. "They think like machines," he radioed to his wingman. "Perfect calculations, perfect formations, perfect predictions." But war isn't perfect. The breakthrough came when Captain Du Haeon Kong's squadron discovered that the Zelkari ships had weak points. The crystalline hulls were designed to deflect energy weapons, but they had never encountered the primitive kinetic weapons that humans still used. "Missiles away," Captain Du Haeon Kong called out, as 2 heat-seeking rockets streaked toward the nearest alien vessel. The Zelkari ship's shields flickered and died as the crude human explosives punched through their elegant defenses. "High Commander." Veltar watched his first ship fall from the sky and felt something he had not experienced in decades: surprise. These primitives had actually damaged one of his vessels using technology that belonged in a museum. Increase bombardment intensity, he ordered his fleet, leveled the entire city. They will surrender when they see their capitals reduced to ash. But the humans did not surrender. Instead, they did something the Zelkari had never seen before. They adapted. In the underground tunnels beneath Seoul, General Myung Choi established her new command center. The subway system, built deep beneath the city for civilian protection, became humanity's nerve center. From here, she coordinated a defense that broke every rule in the Zelkari military handbook. "They're bombing the surface," she explained to her officers, pointing to tactical displays showing the alien attack patterns. "But they're not bombing what matters. Trying to break our spirit by destroying our buildings. They don't understand that our spirit isn't in our buildings." The second surprise came when the Zelkari attempted their ground invasion. Their elegant war machines, designed for fighting on flat, open battlefields, found themselves struggling in Earth's diverse terrain. The Crystal Warriors who had conquered 47 worlds discovered that fighting in Earth cities was unlike anything they had ever experienced. Sergeant Sunmi Lee's unit turned the ruins of downtown Seoul into a maze of death, using nothing but modified hunting rifles and homemade explosives. They eliminated an entire Zelkari patrol in less than 10 minutes. "They move like they're afraid of getting dirty," she reported to command. "Perfect formation, perfect spacing, perfect targets." The alien soldiers had never encountered guerrilla warfare. Their training focused on overwhelming technological superiority and the quick surrender of inferior species. They had no protocols for fighting an enemy that refused to line up and be destroyed properly. Dr. Haiwan Nam, working in a hidden laboratory beneath the city, made the discovery that changed everything. The captured Zelkari equipment revealed a fundamental flaw in their thinking. They build everything to be perfect, she explained to her research team. Perfect shields, perfect weapons, perfect ships. But perfect systems have perfect weaknesses. They've never had to design redundancy, because they've never faced an enemy that could break their primary systems. The real shock came when humanity revealed its nuclear arsenal. The Zelkari had dismissed Earth's atomic weapons as primitive and ineffective. They had never considered that primitive weapons could be used in ways that advanced civilizations would never attempt. The first nuclear missile struck a Zelkari ship directly, not from the ground, but from another ship. Captain Minky SEO had flown his fighter jet directly into the alien formation, carrying a nuclear warhead that he detonated at point-blank range. "For Sol" were his last words as his sacrifice destroyed 3 enemy vessels and himself. Hi. Commander Veltar stared at the expanding fireball in disbelief. No civilized species would sacrifice their own warriors in such a manner. It was wasteful, primitive, and completely effective. "These humans are not following standard conquest protocols," his tactical officer reported. "They're not surrendering. They're not negotiating. They're not even fighting properly." "Then what are they doing?" Veltar demanded. "They're learning." "Sir, every battle teaches them something new about us. But we're not learning anything about them except that they refuse to give up. The war that should have ended in days was entering its 2nd week. And the Zelkari were beginning to understand that they might have made a terrible mistake. The abandoned subway station beneath Busan had become humanity's most important battlefield, though no Zelkari soldier would ever set foot in it. Dr. Unesio Park sat surrounded by a maze of cables, computer screens, and jury-rigged equipment that hummed with electronic life. Her team of hackers worked around the clock, their fingers dancing across keyboards as they fought a war in cyberspace. "Got another one?" whispered hacker Minho Kim, his eyes red from staring at code for 18 hours straight. "Oh, their patrol. Ship just lost navigation. It's flying in circles over Incheon." Dr. Unesio Park smiled grimly as she watched the alien ship's confusion play out on her monitors. 3 months of studying captured Zelkari technology had taught her something. The aliens never expected a primitive species to understand. Their perfection was their weakness. They built their entire communication system like a symphony, she explained to her exhausted team. Every note has to be perfect. Every harmony has to be exact. But what happens when you play the wrong note in the middle of a symphony? The answer was chaos. The Zelkari ships relied on constant communication with each other, sharing data and coordinating attacks through their crystalline network. When Dr. Unesio Park's team introduced random noise into that network, the aliens' perfect formation began to fall apart. 2,000 kilometers away, in a makeshift laboratory built inside a bombed-out factory in Daegu, engineer Tom In-jung was having his own breakthrough. The Zelkari weapon he had been studying for weeks finally gave up its secrets when he hit it with an electromagnetic pulse from a modified microwave oven. "Look at this," he called to his assistant, Dr. Jun Choi, as the alien device sparked and died. "Their circuits are so advanced they can't handle basic electrical interference. It's like using a supercomputer to hammer nails, and then being surprised when static electricity breaks it." The discovery spread through the human resistance network within hours. Suddenly, every microwave oven, radio transmitter, and car engine became a potential weapon against the invaders. The Zelkari had conquered 47 worlds using technology that was vulnerable to things humans threw away as garbage. In the mountains of Gangwon Province, Sergeant Sunmi Lee's guerrilla unit had turned the forest into a graveyard for alien patrols. The Zelkari soldiers, bred for fighting on open battlefields, found themselves completely lost in Earth's wilderness. "They walk like they're afraid of stepping on something," reported Private Sung-woo Park, watching an alien patrol through his rifle scope. Perfect formation, perfect spacing, perfect targets. The alien soldiers moved through the forest like robots, their crystalline armor gleaming in the filtered sunlight. They had never learned to fight in terrain that wasn't flat and predictable. Every tree, every rock, every shadow became a potential threat they couldn't calculate. Sergeant Sunmi. Lee's unit had eliminated 3 full Zelkari patrols using nothing but modified hunting rifles and knowledge of the local terrain. The aliens' energy weapons were powerful, but they were designed for long-range combat on open ground. In the dense forest, their range advantage disappeared. They see trees as obstacles to be cleared. She radioed to command after another successful ambush. We see them as allies that hide us, protect us, and give us advantages they can't compute. The psychological impact on the Zelkari was becoming obvious. Their soldiers who had never lost a battle were now afraid to leave their ships. Their commanders, who had conquered worlds with mathematical precision, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to follow any logical pattern. High Commander Veltar stood in his command center, watching reports of failure stream in from across the planet. 3 months ago, he had expected to be celebrating another conquest. Instead, he was watching his perfect military machine slowly fall apart. "The humans have adapted our technology," his science officer reported, his crystalline features showing confusion. "They're using our own communication networks against us. They've learned to jam our sensors with primitive electronic devices. They're fighting us with our own weapons." "How is this possible?" Beltar demanded. "These creatures were using chemical rockets when we arrived. They couldn't even leave their own planet without burning fossil fuels." "They learn, sir," the science officer replied. "Every battle teaches them something new about us. But we learn nothing about them except that they refuse to follow standard military doctrine." The truth was even more disturbing. The Zelkari had spent centuries perfecting their military technology, but they had never faced an enemy that could match their innovation. Every world they conquered had simply accepted defeat when faced with superior technology. Humans were different. They took the aliens' superior technology and found ways to make it work better. They turned the Zelkari's own weapons against them. They used primitive human technology to exploit weaknesses in advanced alien systems. Dr. Kyung Squeg Lim, working in a hidden laboratory beneath the ruins of Seoul, had reverse-engineered a Zelkari energy weapon and improved it. Her version was smaller, more efficient, and powered by a car battery. They built this weapon to be perfect. She explained to her research team, but perfect for what? Perfect for fighting other Zelkari. Perfect for destroying cities. They never designed it to be perfect for fighting humans. The war that should have ended in days was entering its 4th month, and the Zelkari were learning that perfection was useless against an enemy that refused to be perfect back. The modified Zelkari fighter screamed through the void above Earth's moon, its crystalline hull now painted with the blue and white colors of the Korean Air Force. Major Woojin Kim gripped the alien controls, marveling at how human engineers had improved the ship's performance by removing half of its perfect systems. "Dragon Squadron, this is Dragon Leader." He spoke into the communication system that Dr. Kungskul Lim's team had rebuilt using parts from a Seoul electronics market. "Enemy patrol at 2 o'clock. 6 ships in standard formation." Patrol moved through space like dancers, their ships arranged in a perfect geometric pattern that had conquered 47 worlds. They had no idea they were being hunted by their own technology, improved by human hands and guided by human minds that refused to think in straight lines. "Copy that, Dragon Leader," replied Captain Haewon Choi, piloting a fighter that had been a Zelkari scout ship just 2 weeks ago. "They're flying the same pattern they always use. Perfect formation, perfect spacing, perfect targets." The attack came from 3 directions at once. The Zelkari pilots, trained for centuries in precise military doctrine, found themselves facing an enemy that broke every rule of space combat. The human pilots dove through asteroid fields, used the moon's gravity to slingshot around their targets, and coordinated attacks in ways that no computer could predict. "Impossible," whispered the Zelkari patrol leader, as his perfect formation dissolved into chaos. "These primitives are flying our own ships better than we do." Major Woojin Kim's squadron destroyed the entire alien patrol in less than 4 minutes. Not a single human ship was lost. The impossible had become routine. On Earth. In the deep bunkers beneath the Korean mountains, Admiral Yoon-hai, you watched the battle reports with growing satisfaction. 6 months ago, she had been preparing for retirement after 30 years of naval service. Now she was commanding humanity's first space fleet, built from captured alien technology and human determination. "They're not gods," she announced to the assembled resistance leaders, her voice carrying across the underground. "Command center. They're just another species that forgot how to fight someone who fights back." The psychological impact of the space victory rippled through both human and alien forces. For the first time since the invasion began, humans had won a battle in the enemy's preferred environment. The Zelkari, who had ruled space for millennia, were being outfought in their own element. High Commander Veltar stood in his flagship's command center, watching the tactical displays with growing unease, the red dots representing his destroyed ships were multiplying daily, while the blue dots representing human forces seemed to appear everywhere at once. "How many ships have we lost this week?" he asked his tactical officer, though he already knew the answer would be worse than the week before. 43 vessels, sir," came the reply. "The humans are using our own technology against us. Captured our ships and somehow made them more effective than our original designs." Veltar felt something his species had almost forgotten: doubt. These primitives had not only survived the initial assault, but were now hunting his forces through their own solar system. Every battle report brought news of human victories, human adaptations, human innovations that his military scientists couldn't explain in her hidden laboratory. Dr. Kun-suk-lim worked with equipment that would have been impossible to imagine 6 months ago. Zelkari faster-than-light communication devices, rebuilt with human engineering, allowed her team to intercept every alien transmission in the solar system. "We're not just talking to them now," she smiled, adjusting the modified alien equipment. "We're listening to everything they say. Every order, every plan, every doubt they express to each other." The intelligence advantage was devastating. Human forces knew where the Zelkari would attack before the aliens themselves had finalized their plans. Every alien strategy was countered before it could be implemented. The invaders found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to read their minds. "They're discussing retreat," reported intelligence officer Young Min-ha, listening to intercepted Zelkari communications. "Some of their commanders are questioning the wisdom of continuing the invasion." The psychological warfare was as effective as any weapon. The Zelkari had spent centuries believing in their own superiority, their own invincibility. Now they were being defeated by a species they had dismissed as barely sentient. Their perfect military machine was being dismantled by creatures they considered primitive. Commander Zalthek, leading a Zelkari ground assault on the ruins of Busan, found himself speaking of humans with something approaching respect. "They fight like demons," he reported to his superiors. "They turn our own weapons against us. They use our technology better than we do. They adapt faster than we can respond." The most disturbing reports came from alien soldiers who had encountered human forces in direct combat. The humans didn't just fight to win, they fought to learn. Every battle taught them something new about Zelkari weaknesses, while the aliens learned nothing except that their enemy refused to behave like a conquered species. "They should have surrendered months ago," muttered Sub-Commander Velenith, watching human fighters dance through his fleet's formation like deadly angels. Any rational species would have accepted defeat when faced with superior technology. "Perhaps," replied his tactical officer. "The problem is that they're not rational. There's something else entirely. It's the war that should have ended in days was approaching its 7th month. And the Zelkari were beginning to understand that they might be facing their first defeat in 1,000 years. The darkness between Mars and Jupiter suddenly blazed with the light of 500 crystalline ships. The final Zelkari armada had arrived, carrying the concentrated might of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. This was not a patrol or a conquest fleet. This was an annihilation force, designed to turn entire worlds into cosmic dust. General Daeho Shin stood in the underground command center beneath the Korean mountains, watching the massive alien fleet deploy through the solar system like a slow-moving storm of death. His weathered face showed no fear, only the quiet confidence of a man who had spent 8 months learning how to kill gods. 500 ships, reported his tactical officer, the numbers scrolling across displays that mixed human engineering with captured Zelkari technology. They're taking position around Earth. Complete orbital bombardment formation. Perfect, General Shin replied, his voice carrying a satisfaction that made his staff officers smile grimly. They're about to learn why humans are the galaxy's best students. The trap had been 8 months in the making. Hidden throughout the solar system, modified asteroids drifted silently through space, their surfaces scarred with human welding marks and powered by Zelkari energy cores that hummed with deadly potential. Each asteroid carried enough firepower to destroy a city, guided by human determination and alien technology working in perfect harmony. High Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth turn slowly beneath his fleet. This primitive world had cost him more ships than he had lost in the previous century of conquest. Today, that humiliation would end. Begin final bombardment, he ordered, his crystalline features set in lines of absolute resolve. Leave nothing alive. These primitives have embarrassed us long enough. The first Zelkari energy beams lanced toward Earth, intending to crack the planet's crust and boil its oceans. They struck nothing but empty space. Sir, his tactical officer reported, confusion evident in his voice. The planet, it's not there. Hung exactly where it should be, blue and beautiful and apparently defenseless. But the Zelkari targeting systems couldn't lock onto it. Every sensor showed empty space where the planet should be. Holographic projection, Dr. King Suk Lim whispered from her hidden laboratory. Watching the alien confusion with deep satisfaction, they're so used to perfect technology, they never considered that we might use their own sensors against them. The real Earth was exactly where it had always been. But the Zelkari were seeing what human technology wanted them to see, a false image projected by their own scanning systems. Turned against them by 8 months of human engineering, the counterattack came from everywhere at once. The modified asteroids, silent and invisible until the moment of impact, struck the alien fleet like bullets fired by the solar system itself. Each rock had been carefully positioned, their courses calculated not by computers but by human minds that understood the chaos of war. Captain Minky, SEO's voice crackled over the communications network as his fighter squadron dove into the heart of the enemy formation. Ships he led were a mixture of captured Zelkari fighters and human-built craft that looked like they had been assembled in a junkyard and flew like angels of death. For everyone they killed, he called out as his squadron screamed through the alien formation, for everyone they dismissed, for everyone they called primitive. The human pilots fought with a fury that the Zelkari had never encountered. They used their ships like weapons, ramming alien vessels when their ammunition ran out. They flew through explosions that should have killed them, guided by instincts that no computer could calculate. Major Wu Jin, Kim's bomber squadron released their payload at point-blank range. Nuclear warheads modified with Zelkari energy cores, creating explosions that turned space itself into fire. The aliens' perfect formation dissolved into chaos, as human unpredictability met alien rigidity and won. Possible. High Commander Veltar whispered as his flagship shuddered under human attack. These primitives are using our own technology. Better than we do? The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the mighty Zelkari armada was scattered debris drifting through space. Of the 500 ships that had arrived to end humanity, fewer than 50 survived to flee toward the darkness between stars. The final transmission came from Admiral Yunhai Yu, speaking from the bridge of her flagship, a vessel built from the wreckage of Zelkari ships and powered by human determination. This is Admiral Yu of the Earth's Defense Force. Any Zelkari vessels remaining in this system have 10 minutes to begin their retreat. After that, we will consider you hostile targets. The surviving aliens fled without a word in the aftermath. As the last alien ships disappeared into the void, Dr. Jun Choi stood among the wreckage of Seoul and looked up at the stars. The city was scarred but alive, its people emerging from underground shelters to see sunlight that was no longer threatened by alien shadow. They called us primitive, she said softly, watching human ships patrol the space where gods had once ruled. Now, they'll call us survivors. The last Zelkari transmission was intercepted by Lieutenant Young Minha. Beware the small blue world. The primitives have teeth. Earth had earned its place among the stars, not through conquest, but through the simple refusal to kneel. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.